What's your emergency?
It was a very quiet Saturday morning. I was working on our North dispatch, and the call came in that we had a shooting in progress, and turned out to be a mass casualty shooting. There was such a calm that came over the room when we realized we were dealing with something huge. That this was, we had shootings daily, but this was really big, and everybody just got quiet. We had, over 1,000 phone calls. It was very intense.
That was January 8th, 2011, the day a gunman opened fire in a supermarket parking lot just outside of Tucson, where Arizona Congresswoman Gabby Giffords was holding a constituent event. The gunman injured a dozen others and killed 6. I'm Vicki Kunkel, and this is Creative Career Pivots, the podcast where we explore the life stories of people who've turned their creative passions into profitable careers. The voice you just heard was that of Carla Miles, who spent 12 years as a 911 emergency dispatch supervisor and SWAT dispatcher. She's seen some pretty dramatic and traumatic events in her life. But throughout that time, her real dream was to become a full-time paid screenwriter. And she did just that. Let's get a closer look at how she did it. Carla Miles knew the exact moment she wanted to become a screenwriter. It was 1976 in a Tucson, Arizona theater as she watched the original Rocky film. But it wasn't the movie that inspired her. It was seeing how the film completely transformed a grown man right before her eyes. She told me this older man just kind of shuffled into the theater, slouched in a seat, and hunched over. Carla remembers he looked so despondent, but as she watched him throughout the movie, he started to sit up more straight, leaned forward in his seat. By the time the movie was over, he threw his arms back and purposefully strode out of that theater. In Carla's words, even though Rocky lost, you knew this guy had a completely different attitude, and by God, he was going to go out into the world and, just like Rocky, win a personal victory for going the distance against all odds. Carla walked out of the movie with a career plan. She was going to become a full-time screenwriter. But like so many dreams of the young and inspired, life got in the way. You know, things like paying bills, raising kids, keeping food on the table. She did what any responsible adult would do. Got a real job as a 911 emergency dispatcher, where she worked her way up the ranks to supervisor and SWAT dispatcher. That didn't mean, though, that her youthful aspirations were forgotten.
All the years that I was working in law enforcement, I was always writing. I was always writing my scripts and, sending them out. And, it had become so easy to do things online, online festivals, screenwriting competitions. So I was consistently doing that and always writing new things and sending them out. And so whenever I would win a competition or something, I would go ahead and post that on LinkedIn, hey, got another win.
Her hard work paid off. After over 2 decades working at the 911 Center and continuing all the while to work on her writing, serendipity struck.
Axon was looking for someone to write videos. They do 360-degree virtual reality training videos for law enforcement officers. And so they were looking on LinkedIn for someone with law enforcement experience, but also writing experience. And it was just really good luck that they
I was like,
found
hello.
me. Right. And so I was hired as a contractor, and they said, I'm going to try you out, see if you like this. I'd never written for virtual reality, never written branching narratives, but I knew how to write a screenplay.
Right.
So it was certainly a learning process, part of it. They were new to this. This was not, a well-established branch of Axon, but something new that they had started. So they asked me if I'd be interested, and I said, absolutely, sounds like a lot of fun, because I I know law enforcement, and training, how to train. I know a lot about, police policy and procedures, and I knew how to write a screenplay. So
Mhm.
it really was just very good luck that they found me. So I started as a contractor, and then,
Right.
within 2 months, they offered me a full-time job because they were very happy with what I was producing.
Okay. On the surface, it may sound like Carla just got lucky, but it was more than that. One thing I've learned in speaking with Carla is she's about action, not excuses. Now remember, she had been writing screenplays on the side for decades. She put herself in a position to be discovered. But it wasn't easy. While working that stressful 911 job, she had 6 little kids at home. Now think about that for a minute. You spend 8 hours a day managing life and death, crisis after crisis at your job. Then you come home and you have to care for kids, and feed them, and clean up. I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted just thinking about that. When on earth did she have time to write?
I had a typewriter right next to my dish drainer, and as doing things, you stop and you write a sentence, and you just keep on doing it, even if you just don't have the time. You make the time. I wish I could do writing retreats and sit in the country and work, but it never worked for me. That was just not a possibility. So it was always on the go whenever I could. If I had to skip sleep one night, then you would do that. And
Now you might be thinking, oh, she just cranked out crap. Nothing could be further from the truth. From 2018 until now, roughly the time span of 5 years, Carla's won 18 screenwriting awards and accolades. Where did she get her award-winning ideas from for her screenplays? Well, Carla says having a real life, with hard knocks and all, is what gives you that creative edge.
everything that you do is inspiring in some way, and you have to, take from that. If I had to just keep a notebook, I have notebook upon notebook of, just scribbled thoughts. You just keep writing them down, and when you get the time, when you have an hour, you start sorting through it and try to make sense of it.
As we continued to talk, one thing mystified me. Why? Why would Carla add even more stress to her life by skipping sleep some nights or multitasking with, say, washing dishes and writing a screenplay? Why would she do that, knowing that she wasn't getting paid for that work and she might never sell a screenplay or write as a full-time screenwriter? What kept her going, or even motivated her to do that in the first place?
That's where my love was, and it's just all I ever really wanted to do. I just had a lot of, side journeys in life.
Right. And although she was always hoping for a lucky break, Carla says serendipity sometimes needs a little help.
I think another really important element is to always be telling people what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, they're not going to know that you have this ability. They're not going to know that this is your true passion.
Right.
An accountant. Well, tell people what else you do. Tell people that you're, painting, or that you do graphic art, or that you, write on the side, because you just never know. You just never know when the perfect opportunity is going to come up for you to, be able to pivot to a more creative job.
So, now that Carla has achieved her dream of a full-time screenwriting job, will she finally take it easy and be content with her success? Hardly. She continues to write her own screenplays on the side at night after work. Now that her kids are grown, she just doesn't do it while washing the dishes. If you'd like to see the full video podcast interview where Carla tells us the one thing that she did, and you can do too, to get the attention of big-name producers, just check out the links in the episode notes for this podcast. There you'll also find a nifty infographic summarizing Carla's top tips for making a creative career pivot.